So, what are the archetypes? So, Carl Jung, he knew a lot about, he had a tremendous, vast knowledge of mythology, religion, symbols of ancient civilizations throughout human history. And here's the thing, if a certain symbol or a certain image shows up in the content of a patient's dream, or somebody who had never heard of such things, so historically has not been educated to know about this symbol in a crucial moment in their lives or a certain time, and this symbol, this idea corresponds precisely to a mythology or a symbol 3,000 years ago, couple thousand years ago, a civilization he had no contact with. Same thing when similar ideas emerge in different civilizations, they're on the opposite sides of the world, precisely same symbology. What does it mean? What does it tell about their source? It can't have come from the person's history. It's not a repressed memory. So the source is a source that is largely unconscious. Is a source from the depth of an unconscious ground of being. So what Jung did was, here's the Freudian idea that the unconscious is just repressed memories. So if the unconscious is a repressed memory, it means at some point it was conscious. It was still conscious for Jung. This archetypal layer is unconscious. So we cannot separate the archetypes from the collective unconscious. They go hand in hand, these theories. The collective unconscious must exist for the archetypes to exist and make sense. So they go hand in hand. And so Jung said there is a deeper layer that is unconscious. It is the collective unconscious that exists for all of humanity, that permeates human life, our psychic history. These energies, I see them as archetypal fields, fields that get constellated in time, given the circumstances and the energy put into it, they get constellated. And so archetypes, for example, mostly are anthropomorphic. If you see like the maiden, the core, right? The archetype, the trickster, the mother, the wise old man. We need an image that is likely human to see the archetype. The archetype is forever unconscious. What we know is the archetypal image. So that image is represented as a way of understanding and dealing with the archetype and so having it expressed in time. And it varies across cultures, it varies across individuals, it varies across experiences. The archetypes can be negative or positive. But also there are other archetypes, they're non-anthropomorphic. If you think of archetypes of rebirth, archetypes of wholeness, these are, for Jung, these are archetypes of transformation, phases in life, archetypes, symbols of transformation that happen at particular moments in times of the individuals. There are dozens of archetypes, and we're going to go through the main list in the program in depth. We're going to go a little bit more into these archetypes in details. But great criticism that is non-scientific, that's just speculation. And Jung said, look, this has empirical evidence. We can scientifically and empirically look at the existence of these certain patterns. Now, these patterns exist in a substrate that is timeless, and they emerge on and on and on and over and over and over again. There was a doctor in Brazil recently, but a medical journalist. He worked for 30 years as a medical journalist. He's an expert. He interviewed a lot of people. So he was shut down. His accounts were demonetized. He was demonized by the media. just because he was interviewing doctors who were saying things about the COVID, about possible lines of treatment, about the need to investigate these vaccines. So he was looking at everybody in an unbiased manner, but he couldn't talk about the people who went against the mainstream narrative, and he was shut down. To this day, there's a process by the corrupt Brazilian Supreme Court against the person because he dared to interview people who did not align with the mainstream media, and people who, by the way, were right. And we know now that they were right. But this is his question. He was like, how can I can't believe that in 2025, we're still talking about freedom of expression, that people are being censored. This is 2025. So here's where he's wrong. His naivete, not that he's wrong, because he's thinking in terms of linear time. He thinks that time, as we advance in time, we make progress as a civilization, and that is not true. We can regress as a civilization psychologically. We don't always make progress. So as we advance in time, things do not get better necessarily. They can get worse, psychologically speaking, right? And it has happened in modernity over the last 200 years in terms of our psychological wholeness, in terms of being split. And also the second point is these archetypes of power, control, manipulation, submission to authority, fear of punishment. These archetypes, they live in a timeless substrate. They existed 1 million years ago. They will exist. They will continue to exist in a timeless substrate. So they can be constellated at any point in time. What changes is our psychological integrity. We are the transducers of this information from the unconscious. And as the transducers of this information, we can integrate elements of the unconscious. So psychological growth comes from integrating elements of the unconscious with your conscious life and then becoming whole. That is the process of growth. But every time a human being is born, he's born anew. Right? Hopefully some of these traits are passed along, but these archetypes will constellate themselves at any point in time in the field of time. And we're going to have a little bit more discussion and time later on in a future module about time and time bubbles and cycles of time and chronos and all of that cool stuff. Okay? So the archetypes are there. Be aware.